Most people want to feel better about who they are. They want to look in the mirror and feel proud. They want to get up in the morning with more energy, more focus, and more control over their lives. But the truth is, many don't know where to start. They try to make big changes all at once, and when they slip up, they give up. They believe something's wrong with them, when really, they just need a better way forward. Something honest, something doable, something that actually sticks. Improving yourself every day isn't about perfection. It's not about waking up and suddenly becoming someone else overnight. It's about showing up for yourself in small ways, consistently, intentionally, and even on the days you don't feel like it. It's about making choices that don't just feel good in the moment, but help you become stronger, calmer, and more confident over time. This process isn't glamorous. Most of it is quiet. Most of it happens when no one's watching. But it matters, because those tiny actions, done day after day, start to change how you feel, how you think, and how you carry yourself in the world. This isn't just about setting goals or following routines. It's about rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. It's about learning to keep promises you make to you. It's about training your mind to push through challenges, to let go of what's not working, and to build habits that give you more peace and power. Every part of this journey is possible. It doesn't matter where you're starting. What matters is that you take the next step and you keep going, one decision at a time. This script will walk you through that journey. 10 simple, clear actions you can take every day. Not theories, not fluff, just real, honest practices that if you stick with them will help you build a stronger version of yourself. One day at a time. No shortcuts, just real growth, step by step. You're capable of more than you think. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Start waking up early and take full control today. Morning light offers the first quiet promise of the day, and embracing it fully is the fastest way to reclaim ownership of life. Choosing to rise early is more than shifting an alarm clock. It is a declaration that personal priorities will not wait for crowded schedules, outside demands, or chance moods. The decision to meet dawn intentionally becomes a daily vote for self-direction, mental clarity, and disciplined progress. Many people treat mornings as a forced prelude to obligations, yet dawn can serve as a private workshop where character is built, goals are refined, and mental resilience is forged in silence. Claiming this time reshapes entire days. Once the habit forms, every sunrise turns into a quiet ally that strengthens focus and steadies resolve. The process begins the evening before. A consistent sleep schedule signals respect for physical limits and ensures the mind receives the rest required to function sharply at dawn. Create a ritual that guides the body toward rest without negotiation. Dim lights 1 hour before bed. Switch off digital screens that agitate the brain, and place the phone across the room where temptation cannot erode discipline. Reflect briefly on the wins of the day and list the most important task for morning. Close the notebook, breathe slowly, and allow the thought that tomorrow's dawn will be a test of resolve. Firm decisions made in advance dissolve morning hesitation, and discipline born at night will carry into sunrise. Wake-up time must feel non-negotiable. When the alarm sounds, treat it as the first promise of the day. Rising without debate trains the brain to identify as a person who follows through. Stand up before pressing any button, stretch arms overhead, and take 3 deliberate breaths. Each breath signals the nervous system that the day begins under calm command rather than frantic urgency. This simple act counters common complaints of fatigue by injecting oxygen into muscles and clearing fog from the mind. Drink a glass of water within 5 minutes to replenish the body after hours without hydration. Small physical cues reinforce the psychological shift from sleep to alert engagement. Establish a simple morning framework that aligns with personal goals. Avoid overcomplicated routines that crumble under travel or disruption. A framework of 3 core activities keeps the ritual both stable and flexible. Nourish the mind, move the body, clarify the day. Nourishing the mind can mean reading 5 pages of a thoughtful book, writing in a journal, or listening to an educational podcast. Moving the body can range from 10 push-ups to a brisk 30-minute walk. Clarifying the day involves reviewing the single most important objective and sketching essential supporting tasks. This trio of practices fits in 30 to 40 minutes and can expand when extra time allows. Consistency outweighs duration. The point is to act, not to perform an elaborate ceremony. The journal is an anchor. Write freely for 10 minutes every morning. Capture lingering dreams, anxious thoughts, or ideas that spark curiosity. The page does not judge, it merely holds space, so the mind stops spinning. When mental clutter lands on paper, the brain releases it and gains room for creative problem solving. Stoic thinkers use daily writing to examine emotions, outline duties, and reinforce virtues. Follow their example by ending the entry with 3 clear intentions for the day. Complete sentences give thoughts weight, turning vague hopes into concrete commitments. Physical movement requires no gym membership. Bodyweight exercises, dynamic stretching, or a short run in fresh air invigorate circulation and elevate mood through endorphin release. Training at dawn demonstrates mastery over inertia, strengthening willpower for later challenges. The session also serves as deliberate discomfort, an intentional choice to meet mild strain early rather than passively wait for stress. This mindset of chosen exertion transforms difficulties later in the day into manageable tasks rather than overwhelming surprises. Plan nutrition thoughtfully. Breaking a fast with balanced fuel stabilizes energy and prevents spikes that lead to mid-morning crashes. Simple options like oats with fruit, eggs with vegetables, or yogurt with nuts require minimal preparation and deliver sustained vitality. Avoid reaching for sugary convenience that jeopardizes cognitive sharpness. Treat mindful eating as an act of future self-respect. Nourishment given early keeps the brain calm and the body steady during demanding hours. These habits yield compounding returns. Rising early provides uninterrupted time free from external chatter, which sharpens concentration. It grants the luxury of proactive thinking before reactive communication floods in. Projects once postponed due to lack of time can move forward incrementally each morning. Reading 10 pages daily equals over 3,000 pages a year, the length of multiple substantial books. Writing 1 concise page per day captures a year of personal evolution. 10 minutes of exercise each dawn totals 60 hours annually, enough to reshape strength, flexibility, and posture. Small, consistent actions multiplied by time create powerful transformations. Real-world challenges will test consistency. Business travel may disrupt environment. Family responsibilities may shift sleep hours, and illness may sap momentum. Anticipate obstacles by designing fallback versions of the routine. If the hotel gym is closed, perform bodyweight circuits in a room corner. If caring for a child shortens sleep, reclaim even 15 minutes of quiet breathing and planning. Perfection is not the goal. Resilience is. Missing a morning is not failure, it is feedback. Observe what caused the break, adjust and return without self-criticism. Stoic discipline values steady effort over flawless execution. Address common objections with practical solutions. Those who claim to be night owls often guard late evening entertainment that overstimulates the brain and steals restful sleep. Replace late scrolling with reading or gentle stretching. Some argue early rising reduces total sleep, yet the objective is not less sleep, but better timed sleep. Shift bedtime earlier until waking early still delivers 7 to 8 hours of rest. Others fear initial fatigue. Expect a transition period of roughly 2 weeks. During this phase, prioritize hydration, sunlight exposure, and reduced caffeine after midday. The body adapts quickly when shown consistent signals. Use early hours to pursue passion projects before the world demands attention. Writing a book, learning a language, or building a side business becomes possible when the quiet segment of the day belongs solely to personal growth. Protect it fiercely by declining evening commitments that encroach upon sleep or morning vitality. Friends and colleagues will adjust when they witness newfound energy and results. Cultivate mental resilience through short meditations. Sit in stillness for 5 minutes, focusing on breath. When thoughts wander, gently return attention. This trains the mind to observe urges without impulsively obeying them, a skill that transfers to resisting distractions later in the day. Stoic reflection pairs well with meditation. Contemplate impermanence, personal values, and the privilege of conscious choice. Recognize that waking early is a freedom many overlook. Treat it as a gift rather than a chore. Accountability accelerates habit formation. Share the commitment with a partner, friend, or supportive community. Technology can help if used wisely. An app that logs wake-up times or a simple text check-in reinforces consistency. Celebrate milestones, but keep celebrations modest. Pride lies in the act itself rather than external praise. When accountability shifts from external confirmation to internal integrity, the habit deepens. Measure progress through tangible metrics. Track wake-up times, pages read, words written, or minutes exercised. Objective data informs adjustments and keeps motivation grounded in reality. A visual calendar chain where every successful morning earns a mark becomes a gentle yet persuasive motivation to avoid breaking the streak. Data turns discipline into a visible narrative of growth. Guard mornings from digital intrusion. Resist email, social media, and news until after foundational tasks are complete. The brain's early hours produce the highest dopamine sensitivity, making it vulnerable to quick spikes from notifications. Protect that window for meaningful work rather than reactive consumption. Once the routine finishes and the mind stands firm, engaging with correspondence becomes a choice, not an urgent compulsion. Consider environment design as silent support. Lay out workout clothes before bed, place the journal open on the desk, and keep water ready by the bedside. By reducing friction, the path between intention and action becomes short and smooth. Even small obstacles, like searching for shoes in the dark, can derail fragile fledgling habits. Removing them reveals how willing the mind truly is. Financial benefits often follow energy optimization. Time saved from late-night idleness and spent on skill development or strategic planning can yield promotions or successful personal ventures. The clarity gained by morning review of finances encourages intentional spending. People who control mornings tend to control budgets, goals, and decisions rather than drift through them. Waking early also enhances relationships. Arriving to family breakfast calm and prepared sets a tone for the household. Meeting co-workers with focus instead of fatigue builds credibility and leadership presence. When stress levels drop due to proactive planning, patience with others rises. The early riser becomes a source of stability rather than a contributor to chaos. Mindful solitude has spiritual depth. When streets remain quiet and light slowly paints the sky, humans feel small enough to see truth without ego noise. This perspective nurtures humility and gratitude, two cornerstones of Stoic thought. Rising early reminds us that life's gifts are plain: breath, body, time, and freedom of thought. Accepting these gifts with reverence dissolves many modern anxieties. There will be mornings when the bed feels heavy. Visualize the cost of surrender, rushed preparation, scattered thinking, missed opportunities, and the creeping frustration of playing catch-up all day. Then picture the alternative: steady rhythm, completed goals before others wake, and the quiet pride that accompanies self-command. Choose the second image again and again until the choice feels effortless. Continual refinement keeps the practice alive. Every few months, audit the routine. Does this reading serve current goals? Could exercise intensity increase? Are intentions still aligned with long-term purpose? Adaptation prevents stagnation and signals respect for personal evolution. Just as muscles strengthen only when challenged, routines grow when refreshed. Leverage technology sparingly. Sunrise simulating alarm clocks wake the body gently by increasing light, improving mood and vigilance. Blue light blocking glasses used at night preserve circadian rhythm. Meditation or habit tracking apps can guide beginners, yet real power lies in biological rhythms and consistent effort. Gadgets enhance but never replace discipline. Teach others by example rather than persuasion. When friends marvel at productivity, share the routine. Offer help, but avoid preaching. People accept guidance most readily when witnessing tangible outcomes: clear eyes, finished projects, calm presence. By living principles, the early riser becomes silent proof that deliberate mornings change lives. Sustain momentum through purposeful evenings. Reflect on daily progress, note lessons learned, and reassert commitment for tomorrow. Gratitude listing primes the mind for contentment rather than craving, easing restful sleep. By ending the day with reflection and beginning with proactive action, life forms a continuous loop of intentional growth. Eventually, waking early ceases to feel like a tactic and becomes part of identity. The person who once struggled to rise before sunrise now wakes naturally, compelled by curiosity and ambition. This identity shift matters more than any single productivity hack. Identity governs behavior automatically. When "I am an early riser" becomes self-definition, effort turns into instinct. The practice also builds resilience against uncertainty. Unexpected demands throughout the day no longer threaten essential habits because they were completed before interruptions could strike. Confidence rises from knowing that no matter what chaos ensues afterward, core self-investment already occurred. This inner stability mirrors the Stoic concept of focusing on what can be controlled. Early rising is not a universal solution, but rather a powerful lever. Combine it with clear values, ethical action, and continuous learning to create holistic growth. Without moral compass, productivity merely accelerates directionless movement. With virtue at the center, increased energy becomes fuel for meaningful service and personal fulfillment. Has patience increased? Has empathy deepened? Have impulsive reactions decreased? Dawn rituals should shape who one becomes, not just what one accomplishes. The finest measure of a discipline is the quality of life it fosters both internally and externally. When setbacks occur, and they will, apply compassionate reason, analyze circumstances, adjust strategies, and recommit without self-denigration. Harsh self-talk weakens resolve, objective analysis fortifies it. Growth is iterative, and perseverance stitches isolated efforts into lasting change. Celebrate quietly. Acknowledge milestones with moments of mindful appreciation, perhaps stepping outside to breathe cool morning air, recognizing how far the journey has progressed. Silent self-respect outweighs noisy recognition and nurtures intrinsic motivation. External acclaim fades. Inner pride endures. In time, the mind associates dawn with possibility. The first bird call becomes a reminder that existence renews itself daily, offering fresh space to think, move, create, and improve. Mornings turn from obligations into invitations. Life feels less like a treadmill of urgent tasks and more like a series of deliberate steps toward chosen horizons. Practical wisdom lies in keeping the process simple. Decide on a wake-up time, prepare for it the night before, rise without negotiation, engage a brief triad of mind-body plan activities, respect nutrition, and protect the window from distraction. This discipline, repeated enough, builds autonomy, creativity, and resilience that permeate every waking hour. The first conscious moment of each day holds enormous power because it shapes perception of time, task, and self. Claim that moment and entire days unfold under guidance instead of drift. Rise calmly, act intentionally, and cultivate a presence of mind that cannot be purchased or faked. This is the quiet victory of waking early. It proves that freedom still exists, not in grand gestures, but in the simple choice to open eyes before the world demands them. Embrace tomorrow's dawn with steady breath, firm footing, and clear intent. Step into morning light as an ally of purpose, ready to build, learn, and serve. Each sunrise offers a fresh stage. Approach it with gratitude, discipline, and the unshakable conviction that incremental mastery of the self is the surest path to a life of meaning and strength. Chapter 2. Build one small habit that strengthens your self-discipline. Your mind is full every day. Thoughts race, emotions build, and questions come up without answers. You carry them around all day long. Some are helpful, some are heavy, some you can't explain but still feel deeply. Most people never stop to sort through any of it. They move from task to task, moment to moment, always reacting, rarely reflecting. That creates noise, inner noise that clouds judgment, fuels stress, and makes it hard to think clearly. If you want clarity, you must make space for it. Writing is how you do that. Writing your thoughts each day is not about creating perfect sentences. It's about showing up with honesty. It's about putting your mind on paper so you can see what's really there, instead of carrying it all in silence. When you write your thoughts every day, you give shape to what feels vague. You make the invisible visible. You allow the deeper parts of your thinking to rise to the surface, where they can be seen and understood. It's not about being a writer. It's about being someone who wants to understand themselves fully. You are not here to perform or impress. You're here to observe, uncover, and train your mind to work with clarity instead of confusion. That takes courage, not talent. The courage to sit down, face what you think, and let it come out without filters. Most people avoid this practice because they are afraid of what they'll find. They don't want to confront their own fears, doubts, or disappointments, so they stay distracted. They keep their hands busy and their minds foggy. But you are not here to hide from yourself. You are here to grow, and growth begins with awareness. Daily writing gives you that awareness. You begin to see patterns in your thinking. You begin to notice how your thoughts shift based on what you consume, how you sleep, who you spend time with. You begin to recognize how much power your thoughts have over your emotions and actions. This is where inner strength begins, with the decision to be honest about what's going on inside you. You don't need a specific format or structure. You don't need rules. You need to sit down and write what's true. That's enough. Write what you're feeling, what you're questioning, what's bothering you, what you're grateful for, what you're working toward. Don't worry if it sounds messy. Messy is part of it. You're not writing for perfection. You're writing for insight. You are collecting the scattered pieces of your thinking and putting them in one place so you can see what needs to stay and what needs to go. Some days you'll feel like you have nothing to say. That's fine. Write that down. Write about the silence. Write about the stillness. The point is not to be interesting. The point is to be real. When you do this daily, something powerful begins to happen. You start understanding yourself more clearly. You become more honest, more grounded, more self-aware. You start noticing what truly matters to you and what's just noise. You stop being so easily swayed by other people's opinions because you've taken the time to develop your own. That is clarity. And clarity is what allows you to live with direction instead of drifting. This kind of writing is not for public view. It's not for social media or approval. It's a private practice that exists solely to serve your growth. You are giving yourself the gift of reflection. Every time you sit down and write, you are slowing down the speed of your thoughts. You are separating yourself from the constant rush of the world. You are choosing stillness in a noisy world. That stillness sharpens your mind. It allows you to think with precision. You stop reacting to everything. You start responding with calm and intention. The more you write, the more you begin to see your own progress. You'll look back on older entries and realize how much your mindset has shifted. You'll see how problems that once felt overwhelming are now under control. You'll recognize how your confidence has grown, not because life got easier, but because your thinking got clearer. You don't build a strong mind through chance. You build it through awareness, reflection, and consistency. Writing gives you all three. You don't need to write for an hour. Start with 5 minutes. Open a notebook or a blank page and begin with the question, what am I thinking right now? Let the words come without overthinking. Don't judge your grammar. Don't edit as you go. Just write. Let the thoughts land. Let them unfold. Some will surprise you. Some will be difficult. Some will be encouraging. That's good. You want the full picture. You want to know what's actually running through your mind, not just what you pretend to believe. This is how you train clarity. 1 page at a time. 1 honest sentence at a time. You are not just writing thoughts. You are watching them. You are learning from them. You are creating distance between who you are and what you think. That distance is essential. It gives you freedom. You begin to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. You have the power to choose which ones to follow and which ones to release. That awareness is strength. It makes you calm. It makes you steady. It helps you lead yourself with wisdom, even when life becomes chaotic. Over time, this habit becomes a daily reset, a moment of peace where you reconnect with yourself. You stop rushing. You stop pretending. You show up exactly as you are, and you let your words catch up to your reality. You gain control, not by forcing your mind to be quiet, but by allowing it to express itself in a space that's safe and unfiltered. That practice builds trust in yourself. You begin to rely on your own voice more than external noise. You begin to respect your own thoughts more than the endless opinions around you. And as your clarity grows, so does your confidence. Because you're no longer lost in thoughts you can't name. You're no longer consumed by emotions you don't understand. You've taken the time to sort through them. You've faced them. You've written your way through them. And now, they no longer control you. You control your mind. You choose how to direct your energy. You move with intention because you've taken time to know yourself deeply. This practice is simple, but not easy. It requires you to slow down when everything tells you to speed up. It requires you to face the parts of yourself that are uncertain, insecure, or unresolved. But this is how strength is built, by doing what others avoid, by showing up every day to sharpen your inner world so that your outer world no longer dictates how you feel. That's how you build clarity that lasts. That's how you train a mind that stays focused under pressure. That's how you begin to live with honesty, awareness, and peace. No matter what your days look like, this is something you can control. 5 minutes, 1 page, your thoughts, your truth. No distractions, no expectations. Just a quiet practice that keeps you grounded and helps you return to who you really are. Over time, that changes everything. Not all at once, but gradually, deeply, permanently. That's how you improve. That's how you evolve. That's how you lead yourself forward. Chapter 3. Write your thoughts daily to train your inner clarity. Every day your mind is exposed to hundreds of thoughts, concerns, and impressions. They arrive from what you hear, what you see, what others say, and what you quietly think to yourself. These thoughts don't vanish when ignored. They stay beneath the surface, clouding your focus and weighing down your decisions. When your inner world becomes crowded, your clarity fades. You begin to feel uncertain, restless, or even confused without knowing why. That's why writing your thoughts daily is not just a tool, it's a discipline. It's a way to slow down and see yourself clearly before the world tells you who to be. The purpose of writing daily is not to produce perfect words. It's to look inward and bring order to your thinking. You begin by noticing what's already there, concerns you haven't acknowledged, questions you haven't answered, and ideas you haven't explored. Writing is a method of translating mental clutter into structured understanding. It doesn't require you to be skilled or artistic. It only requires honesty and consistency. Each time you write, you collect your scattered thoughts and examine them with calm attention. Clarity is not something you wake up with by accident. It is something you train. When you write each day, you stop reacting to your thoughts and begin responding to them. You notice what is helpful and what is draining. You become aware of how your emotions are shaped by the stories you repeat to yourself. You begin to separate what is real from what is assumed. Without this practice, your mind remains full but not focused. Writing gives you focus. It gives shape to the vague and space to the overwhelming. You don't need to write pages. You don't need a specific format. You need to create a small window of time to be with your mind without interruption. Begin with what feels real right now. You may feel anxious or grateful, restless or motivated. Write exactly what you feel without editing or filtering. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are creating a space to understand yourself. That process done daily builds your ability to think with precision. It strengthens your capacity to make decisions based on clarity, not confusion. Writing is a conversation with the most honest part of yourself. It's where you can admit what's working and what isn't. You can question your habits, evaluate your direction, and adjust your mindset. Without this conversation, your mind is left to wander without structure. That's when impulsiveness, doubt, and emotional reactivity begin to take over. But when you write, you regain command. You return to the role of observer and leader of your own thoughts. One of the most overlooked benefits of writing daily is that it teaches you to slow down. In a world that constantly urges you to go faster, the act of sitting down to reflect becomes an act of strength. You are not rushing. You are choosing stillness to access wisdom. This stillness is not emptiness, it's focus. And focus is the beginning of growth. People who write daily tend to grow faster, not because they move faster, but because they move with direction. They are not guessing. They are aware. They adjust when necessary. They build their lives based on clarity rather than noise. Some people believe they must wait until they feel inspired to write. That's a mistake. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. It shows up because the value is understood. When you write, even when you don't feel like it, you are training your mind to act with purpose rather than mood. You are telling yourself that clarity matters more than comfort. That single decision repeated over time changes how you operate. You begin to act from your values, not your impulses. You begin to prioritize growth over ease. The most powerful insights often come from moments you don't expect. One small sentence you write can reveal a blind spot you hadn't noticed. One paragraph can unlock an answer you've been seeking for weeks. These realizations don't come from force, they come from presence. Writing daily places you in that presence. It turns your attention inward, not in a way that isolates you, but in a way that strengthens your center so you can meet the world from a grounded place. Every entry you write is a mirror. You see yourself, not the version others expect, but the one that exists in silence. Over time, this builds confidence, not a loud external confidence, but a quiet knowing. You know who you are. You know what you believe. You understand what drives you and what drains you. You recognize when your thinking is aligned and when it needs correction. This is how clarity becomes natural. It's not something you chase. It's something you practice and grow. There will be days when you're tired or distracted. Write anyway. Even a few sentences matter. You are not chasing perfection. You are building consistency. That consistency becomes strength. Over time, it becomes part of who you are. A person who doesn't ignore their thoughts. A person who faces their truth and learns from it. A person who doesn't let life happen to them but instead meets life with intention. When you look back after a month or a year of writing, you'll notice a deeper shift. You'll realize you are no longer surprised by your own emotions. You'll see how often your growth was born in quiet moments. You'll read your old words and see evidence of your improvement, not just in your circumstances, but in how you think, how you process, and how you choose. That kind of change isn't loud, but it is powerful. It's the kind of change that stays. If you want clarity, you need to listen to yourself. Not once, not occasionally, but daily. Writing is how you listen. It's how you hear what your mind is truly saying beneath the surface distractions. It's how you process the experiences of your life so they don't accumulate into confusion. This practice is simple, but it's also transformative. It's a tool you can carry with you for life. You don't need anything more than a pen or a keyboard and the willingness to be honest. That's where clarity begins. Writing daily trains your ability to reflect before you react. It sharpens your ability to think critically instead of passively. It helps you become the kind of person who responds with thoughtfulness instead of impulse. This doesn't just help you, it helps everyone around you. You become a better communicator, a more stable leader, a more aware partner. People who understand their own minds are better at understanding others. And that begins with writing, alone, quietly, consistently. Your thoughts matter. They shape your actions, your mood, your beliefs, and your results. Don't leave them unexamined. Don't carry them without checking their truth. Write them down, see them clearly, learn from them, adjust when needed. Writing is not something you do once. It is something you make part of your life, because self-awareness is not a moment, it's a way of living. Every day you write, you become more capable of meeting the challenges ahead with clarity instead of confusion. And that kind of clarity, earned in silence, is what gives you the power to live with depth and direction. Chapter 4. Face one fear daily to grow your confidence fast. Fear does not vanish on its own. It grows in silence and becomes stronger the longer you avoid it. It sits quietly in your mind and influences how you move through the world. It keeps you from speaking up when you should. It makes you shrink when you should stand tall. It convinces you that something bad will happen if you try. But the truth is, the more you avoid your fear, the more you hand over your strength. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you build by confronting what scares you and choosing action anyway. If you want to grow quickly, you need to stop waiting for fear to go away. You need to start moving toward it. Facing one fear each day changes your relationship with discomfort. Instead of trying to escape it, you begin to see it as a doorway. On the other side of fear is growth, and the only way to reach it is to step forward. You don't need to face the biggest fear all at once. You need to build the habit of taking small, intentional steps in the direction that makes you nervous. That moment when your heart beats faster, when your voice shakes, when your hands sweat, that is the moment where transformation begins. You either retreat and repeat the same cycle again, or you move forward and strengthen your inner foundation. Confidence is not loud. It's not about pretending to be fearless. It's about knowing that you can face what makes you uncomfortable and keep going. When you practice this daily, your mind learns that fear is not final. It's just a feeling, and feelings pass when you act with courage. The people who seem the most confident are not the ones without fear. They are the ones who have trained themselves to act in spite of it. You become strong, not because you never doubt, but because you stop letting fear make your choices for you. The fears that control you are often small on the surface, but powerful in effect. It might be the fear of being judged, the fear of failing, the fear of being misunderstood, or the fear of starting something new. These fears are common, but they are not harmless. They hold you back from opportunities, silence your potential, and convince you that staying safe is better than becoming strong. But staying safe keeps your life small, it keeps your spirit quiet, and over time it drains your confidence. You begin to think you're not capable, not because it's true, but because you haven't tested it. To grow confidence fast, you need daily proof that you can act even when afraid. You don't need a big plan, you need a moment of courage. Each day identify one small fear that has been lingering in your mind. Maybe it's making a difficult phone call, maybe it's saying what you truly think, maybe it's applying for something even if you don't feel ready. Choose one and take action. It's not about the outcome, it's about the decision to face it. That decision trains your identity. It tells your brain, I can handle this, I am not fragile, I don't back down from life. You don't have to feel brave to act bravely. The action itself creates the courage. Each time you take a step into fear, you send a message to yourself that you trust your ability to adapt, even if it's uncomfortable. That message builds self-respect. And self-respect builds real, lasting confidence. You stop needing external validation because your confidence now comes from within. You've earned it, not through comfort, but through challenge. Most people try to wait until they feel ready, but readiness is a myth when fear is involved. You don't feel ready before doing something hard. You feel ready after doing it. That's when your body learns it didn't break. That's when your mind understands it can survive tension. You stop waiting. You start choosing. One decision, one challenge, one fear at a time. This is how confidence is built, like a muscle, through repetition and effort, not luck or talent. You will never fully eliminate fear, but that's not the goal. The goal is to stop letting it drive your decisions. You can feel fear and still act with wisdom. You can feel discomfort and still speak your truth. You can feel doubt and still walk forward. The people who succeed in life are not the ones with perfect control over their emotions. They are the ones who know which emotions to listen to and which ones to rise above. Fear doesn't deserve control unless it's protecting you from real harm. Most of the time it's just protecting you from imagined discomfort, and growth always requires a bit of discomfort. When you face your fears, something shifts in your mind. You start to see challenges as invitations instead of threats. You develop a sense of inner power. You begin to notice that you can handle more than you thought. This is not about recklessness. It's about choosing progress over paralysis. When you do this consistently, you change how you see yourself. You no longer see someone who hides or avoids. You see someone who acts with courage, even when it's inconvenient. Fear becomes smaller each time you face it. Confidence becomes stronger each time you act. There is no magic. There is no shortcut. There is only action. Quiet, steady, committed action. It might feel awkward. It might feel scary. But those feelings are not signs to stop. They are signs you're stretching. And stretching is how people grow. Some fears take longer to dissolve. That's okay. The point is not to eliminate every fear immediately. The point is to teach yourself that you don't retreat. You move forward, even if it's just 1 inch at a time. You keep choosing courage, not comfort. Over time, this becomes part of who you are. You stop shrinking. You stop making excuses. You become the kind of person who shows up fully, even when it's easier to stay hidden. This way of living builds a powerful kind of trust in yourself. When you can count on your own courage, you stop depending on the world to be easy. You stop waiting for permission. You stop fearing rejection. You carry your strength with you, and people feel it. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you're no longer trying to hide. Every day gives you a chance to grow a little stronger, not by reading more, not by planning more, but by doing the thing you've been avoiding. The more often you face what scares you, the more natural it becomes. You stop making fear the enemy. You make it the signal that you are close to something important, something worth reaching for, something that can shape who you become. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be willing. You don't need to win every time. You need to try every time. These are the actions that build real, unshakable confidence. Confidence that does not depend on your environment. Confidence that stays with you in quiet rooms and loud moments. Confidence that comes from facing fear again and again until fear is no longer your master, but your teacher. Chapter 5. Spend time alone daily to understand your real self. Most people spend their lives surrounded by noise, conversations, distractions, notifications and responsibilities fill up every corner of the day. Even in moments of stillness, the mind often stays crowded. We keep ourselves occupied to avoid the uncomfortable silence that might reveal what we're trying to ignore. But the truth is, without time alone, you never fully meet yourself. You live as a version shaped by expectation, reaction, and survival. You respond to the world, but rarely hear your own voice clearly. To know who you really are, you have to spend time with yourself, quietly, consistently, and without distraction. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Solitude is the presence of yourself. And in that presence, there is a kind of strength that no one else can give you. When you choose to be alone, even for a few minutes each day, you create space for your thoughts to settle. The chaos begins to quiet down, the masks fall away. You're no longer performing, you're no longer reacting, you're just being. That is when your true self begins to speak. Not in loud words or dramatic realizations, but in subtle truths and quiet understandings. Most people avoid this because facing yourself isn't always comfortable. You might notice the guilt you've been carrying. You might feel the weight of decisions not made. You might come face to face with questions you've been avoiding. But these moments are not something to fear. They are your invitation to grow. If you don't look inward, you end up living your life on autopilot, doing what you've always done, thinking what you've always thought, and wondering why nothing feels right. The only way to real clarity is to look within, and you can't do that when you're constantly distracted. Start small, 5 minutes in silence. No phone, no music, just you. Sit, breathe, and let whatever needs to rise come forward. Don't judge it, don't resist it, just observe. This is how self-awareness is built, not through forcing insights, but by allowing them. Over time, those minutes become something you look forward to. You begin to crave that space, because in it, you remember what matters. You reconnect with your priorities. You see where your energy is leaking. You understand what you've been avoiding, and why. This understanding gives you power. The power to change. The power to choose better. The power to live from a place of alignment instead of confusion. When you spend time alone daily, your thoughts become clearer. You stop needing so much input from others. You start trusting your own instincts more. You notice which choices feel forced and which feel true. You begin to act with greater intention because you're no longer living from impulse. You're responding to life from a place of depth instead of surface reaction. This makes you stronger, more stable, and less dependent on external approval. You learn that you don't need constant validation when your values are clear. You don't need to chase opinions when your direction is rooted in self-understanding. It is in solitude that you become your own teacher. You listen to your fears and learn from them. You examine your desires and question where they come from. You confront your weaknesses not to shame yourself, but to grow beyond them. There is a calm wisdom that develops when you practice being alone with yourself. You realize that everything you've been chasing, peace, strength, clarity, was never outside of you. It was waiting beneath the noise, beneath the distractions, beneath the busy routines. All you had to do was make space for it to be seen. Spending time alone each day also sharpens your focus. Without the pull of constant interaction, your mind becomes more disciplined. You stop wasting so much energy on trivial things. You stop getting pulled into other people's drama. You notice where your time is going, and you take it back. You simplify. You choose what matters, and let go of what doesn't. This clarity brings calm. You no longer feel the need to prove anything. You're no longer chasing every opportunity that passes by. You move with purpose, and that purpose comes from within. Many people fear being alone because they think it means they are unloved or unwanted. But the ability to be alone is actually a sign of emotional maturity. It means you're not afraid of your own thoughts. It means you've developed enough strength to stand on your own without needing constant reassurance. And from that strength comes better relationships. You no longer depend on others to complete you. You connect from fullness, not emptiness. You give without needing to receive. You love without losing yourself. This creates healthier bonds and deeper trust because you are bringing your true self into every interaction, not a version shaped by fear. The more time you spend alone, the more comfortable you become with your own company. You begin to enjoy it. You look forward to it. It becomes your time to reflect, to think, to plan, to just be. And in that being, you discover layers of yourself that you never knew were there. Talents, ideas, dreams, pain, everything you've stored inside begins to surface. You make peace with your past. You stop running from yourself. You begin to heal, not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally paying attention. This kind of daily solitude does not require hours. Even 10 to 15 minutes of intentional silence can shift your entire day. It centers you, it grounds you, it reminds you that you are not just a product of the world around you. You are an individual with the power to think, choose and grow. And the more you cultivate this space, the more confident you become in your direction. Decisions become easier, boundaries become clearer. You stop second-guessing every move because you know who you are and you know what matters to you. When you build this daily habit, you give yourself a gift that no one else can give you, the gift of knowing yourself deeply and living from that place. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle. It means that when struggle comes, you won't be shaken so easily. You'll have a foundation of calm. You'll have clarity in the storm. You'll have yourself, and that is more than enough. Chapter 6. Practice gratitude every night to build inner peace. Most people go to bed carrying the weight of everything that went wrong during the day. The arguments, the missed opportunities, the stress, the small annoyances, they pile up quietly, adding pressure to the mind and tension to the heart. Without realizing it, we fall asleep with unrest in our thoughts and heaviness in our spirit. This becomes a cycle. We wake up already burdened, step into the day with low energy, and repeat the pattern without pause. But there is a way to break that cycle, and it begins with one simple but powerful decision: to end your day with gratitude, not just as a vague feeling, but as a consistent nightly practice that realigns your focus and restores your peace from within. Gratitude is not about ignoring difficulties or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about choosing where to place your attention. Every day brings a mix of experiences, some joyful, others painful. If you never pause to notice what's good, the mind will naturally drift toward what's missing. The brain is wired to detect threats, to remember disappointments, to scan for problems. If you don't train it, it will keep you stuck in anxiety and dissatisfaction. But if you guide your mind, especially at the end of the day, to reflect on what's working, what you've gained, and what moments brought warmth or growth, you begin to change the way you experience life. Inner peace doesn't come from perfect conditions. It comes from a trained perspective. When you deliberately end your day by acknowledging what you're thankful for, you shift your energy, you release the grip of frustration, and create space for calm. Your thoughts slow down. Your nervous system begins to settle, your sense of balance returns. You no longer fall asleep feeling like you're behind or lacking. Instead, you rest with a quiet sense of sufficiency, knowing that even in an imperfect day, there was something meaningful to carry forward. The practice itself is simple. Before going to sleep, sit for a few minutes in silence. Ask yourself what you appreciated about the day. Don't wait for big events or dramatic wins. Look for the small things: a smile from a stranger, a task you completed, a moment of laughter, a good meal, a warm conversation, or even the simple fact that you made it through. Write these down, or just say them quietly to yourself. Let each one settle in your awareness. Feel them, don't just name them. Let your body and mind absorb the goodness that was present, even if it was brief. Over time, this becomes more than a routine. It becomes a mindset. You start noticing positive moments as they happen because your mind has been trained to look for them. You stop glossing over kindness. You start appreciating your own efforts. You become more aware of the beauty in ordinary things. This awareness deepens your connection to life and strengthens your emotional resilience. Gratitude acts like an anchor. No matter what chaos the day brings, you end it by returning to what grounds you. One of the most powerful effects of nightly gratitude is its ability to soften the heart. When you make space each night to appreciate life, bitterness begins to fade. Resentment loses its grip. You stop clinging so tightly to what hurt you because you're holding on to what healed you. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it creates room around it. It reminds you that pain is not the whole picture. It reminds you that there's more to your story than what went wrong, and that reminder gives you hope. It restores a sense of wholeness and helps you feel more at home within yourself. As this practice becomes a habit, you'll notice other shifts too. Your sleep becomes more restful, your mind feels lighter, your relationships feel deeper because you've trained yourself to focus on what's good in people rather than what's missing. You begin to approach your days with more patience because you've ended them with appreciation. Life starts to feel more manageable, not because it became easier, but because you became more centered. You may also start seeing growth where you previously only saw struggle. Gratitude has a way of revealing the quiet victories we often overlook. The hard conversation you had that moved things forward, the courage it took to keep going despite doubt, the discipline you showed when no one else noticed. When you pause to reflect, these things come into focus. You stop waiting for someone else to recognize your effort. You give yourself that recognition, and that builds quiet confidence. You realize you are stronger than you thought, and more capable than you gave yourself credit for. Gratitude also deepens your sense of purpose. As you reflect on what you're thankful for, you begin to see what matters most to you. Certain patterns emerge. You notice which activities leave you feeling fulfilled. You see which people lift your spirit. You become aware of the values that make your life meaningful. This awareness guides your choices. It helps you let go of what no longer serves you. It sharpens your sense of direction. You no longer drift aimlessly. You begin to live with greater clarity because you've taken time to understand what fuels your well-being. This nightly practice is especially powerful during difficult seasons. When life feels heavy, gratitude becomes a lifeline. It reminds you that not all is lost, that even in darkness there are flickers of light, a kind word, a quiet moment, a lesson learned, a breath of relief. Holding on to these doesn't make the hardship disappear, but it makes it more bearable. It gives you the strength to face tomorrow with courage, knowing that even in the struggle, something good still exists. To make this habit last, consistency matters. Make it part of your nighttime routine. It doesn't require much time, just intention. Keep a small notebook beside your bed. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each night. They don't have to be profound, they just have to be honest. If writing isn't for you, simply speak them aloud, or reflect in silence. What matters most is presence. The more you do this, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, gratitude stops being a practice and becomes a way of seeing, and this way of seeing changes everything. You stop measuring your days by how much you accomplished or how few problems you had. You start measuring them by how present you were, how much kindness you noticed, how deeply you felt, and how often you paused to appreciate what you have. That shift rewires your emotional life. It lowers stress. It increases resilience. It brings joy back to the surface. You no longer need big achievements to feel worthy. You find satisfaction in simply living with awareness and appreciation. There's a quiet kind of power in ending each day with gratitude. It reminds you that no matter how uncertain life is, you always have the ability to choose your focus. That choice creates inner peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you've learned to honor what is good, even if it's small, even if it's temporary, even if it came wrapped in discomfort. Peace is not found in controlling the world. It's found in training the mind to rest in what's already enough. Gratitude is how you begin that training, and doing it each night is how you turn it into a way of life. Chapter 7. Plan your next day before going to sleep tonight. Most people begin their mornings trying to remember what they forgot to do yesterday. They wake up feeling like they're already behind. Their mind races before their feet even touch the ground, filled with noise, clutter, and vague pressure to be productive. Without direction, the day takes control of them instead of the other way around. They check their phone, get pulled into distractions, and react to whatever comes at them first. That pattern doesn't just waste time, it slowly erodes confidence. When you go through your days without a clear sense of purpose, you don't feel accomplished, even after hours of effort. You feel scattered, overwhelmed, and unsure if anything truly moved forward. But there's a simple shift that can reverse all of that. It begins the night before. Planning your next day before going to sleep is not just about writing a to-do list. It's a practice of intention. It's a decision to take ownership of your time. When you map out your next day in advance, you remove the stress of waking up to uncertainty, you eliminate guesswork, you create mental clarity, and perhaps most importantly, you begin to trust yourself more. You start the day not with confusion, but with confidence that you already know where your energy is going. This habit brings calm to the end of your day. Instead of going to bed with a brain full of loose ends and unfinished thoughts, you unload those thoughts into a clear structure. You don't lie awake trying to remember what needs doing. You don't mentally rehearse tasks or replay your schedule on repeat. You give your mind permission to rest, knowing that tomorrow already has a plan, and that rest isn't just physical, it's mental. You begin to sleep with more peace because you're not carrying tomorrow's weight on your shoulders. The most effective plans are not crammed with everything possible. They are focused. They reflect what matters most. Each night ask yourself, what are the top 3 things I need to complete tomorrow that will genuinely move my life forward? This simple question creates clarity. It forces you to prioritize instead of reacting. It challenges you to be intentional instead of busy. You're not filling your day with noise. You're choosing what deserves your time, your focus, and your effort. Over time, this nightly planning shapes the way you approach everything. You become more deliberate. You stop wasting energy on decisions that could have been made in advance. You don't need to spend your morning figuring out what to do. You already know. You just wake up and act. That momentum carries you forward. You get into flow faster. You handle challenges more smoothly. You make better choices because your direction is already set. Even small routines, when planned ahead, become powerful. Deciding what time you'll wake up, what you'll eat, what you'll wear, or what you'll work on first. All of these reduce friction. They remove uncertainty. They simplify your day before it even begins, and that simplicity protects your energy. You no longer leak attention on avoidable decisions. You save it for the tasks and people that actually matter. This nightly habit also protects your long-term vision. When you plan your day in advance, you can align it with your bigger goals. You're not just reacting to urgency, you're making space for what's important. You give time to your personal growth, your health, your creativity, your relationships. You ensure that each day has something in it that strengthens you. This doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. And the best time to design tomorrow is the night before, while the lessons from today are still fresh in your mind. The process doesn't have to take long. 10 minutes is enough. Sit quietly, review your calendar, write your priorities, and think through how you want the day to feel. Not just what you want to do, but how you want to experience it. Do you want the day to feel structured, light, focused, productive, centered? Your emotional state matters. When you plan your tasks around the kind of energy you want to cultivate, you begin to create days that don't just look successful, but actually feel fulfilling. You also start noticing patterns. You see what kind of work drains you, what meetings leave you scattered, and what routines keep you grounded. You start adjusting your days based on what works instead of repeating cycles that don't. You course correct faster, you waste less time, you make better use of your most productive hours. That level of self-awareness only comes from planning, reflecting, and refining day after day with consistency. This habit also improves your discipline. When you commit to a plan the night before and then follow through the next day, you build integrity with yourself. That follow-through strengthens your belief that you can direct your life. You stop relying on motivation because you already have structure. You stop negotiating with procrastination because the plan is already made. And with each day that you follow the plan you created, your sense of control grows. It's not about perfection. Some days will not go as planned. That's inevitable. But even when life interrupts your schedule, you'll be better equipped to adapt because you started with intention. You'll know what matters most, so you can still protect it. You won't crumble under surprise because you've already trained your mind to respond with clarity, not panic. You'll move with purpose, even when plans shift. This habit also sharpens your focus. Throughout the day, whenever you feel pulled in different directions, you can return to your plan. You don't have to stop and rethink your next step. It's already there, waiting. That single point of reference helps you recover quickly from distractions. It gives you a clear way to say no to what doesn't align with your priorities. It keeps you grounded when everything else feels chaotic. And when the day ends, you'll feel something many people don't. satisfaction. Not because you did everything perfectly, but because you acted with direction. You didn't let the day run you. You showed up for it with clarity, made progress on what mattered, and now you can close it with peace. That sense of satisfaction creates a positive feedback loop. It motivates you to keep planning. It gives you momentum. It reinforces the truth that you have more influence over your life than you once believed. Eventually, this becomes more than a habit. It becomes a philosophy. You no longer live on autopilot. You live with direction. You no longer let urgency dictate your priorities. You set them. You no longer leave your energy to chance. You protect it. All because night after night, you chose to plan instead of drift. That decision, repeated daily, builds a life that reflects your deepest values and your highest potential, not through force, but through quiet, intentional effort, starting the night before. Chapter 8. Take full responsibility for everything in your life. When you decide to take full responsibility for everything in your life, you stop waiting for circumstances to change and start creating change from within. You no longer blame your past, your parents, your environment, or the people around you. You understand that the power to shape your life begins the moment you stop assigning that power to something outside of yourself. This decision isn't about shame or guilt. It's about ownership. Ownership gives you the ability to grow. It gives you choices. It gives you the freedom to rise above limitation and rewrite the direction of your life, no matter where you started. Most people stay stuck because they hold on to the idea that something or someone else is responsible for the way they feel, the results they get, or the state of their life. They spend years waiting for others to apologize, to change, to notice them, to give them opportunities. But the longer you wait for the world to fix what you're unwilling to face, the more powerless you become. You lose time, energy, and confidence, hoping for something outside of you to shift when the real shift has to happen internally. Taking responsibility means looking at every area of your life, your health, your relationships, your finances, your habits, your emotions, and asking one simple question: what part of this have I created, allowed, or neglected? It requires honesty, brutal honesty, and at first it can feel uncomfortable, even painful, but that pain is temporary. What it gives you in return is long-lasting power, because the moment you admit your role in the situation, you activate your ability to do something about it. It doesn't mean everything is your fault. You may have experienced real trauma, real injustice, real setbacks beyond your control. But responsibility is not about fault, it's about response. It's about your ability to respond from this moment forward. You may not have created the problem, but it's now your job to decide how you're going to move through it. That shift in mindset is what separates people who transform their lives from those who stay stuck in patterns of blame. When you stop pointing outward and start looking inward, everything changes. You start catching the ways you've avoided responsibility, whether through excuses, denial, or distraction. You begin to notice where you've lowered your standards, where you've tolerated less than you deserve, and where you've made choices that led you to your current results. And instead of judging yourself, you use this awareness as fuel. You choose to rise above old habits. You stop pretending that life is happening to you. You start showing up like the one who gets to shape it. It takes courage to stop blaming. It takes maturity to stop waiting. It takes strength to say, I am where I am because of what I've chosen, and I can choose differently. That single act of responsibility rewires your self-image. You no longer see yourself as a victim of life. You see yourself as the author of it. You accept the past without making excuses. You face the present without defensiveness. You build the future with conviction. When you take full responsibility, you stop outsourcing your happiness. You stop depending on someone else to make you feel seen, valued, or whole. You realize that no one is coming to fix your mindset. No one is coming to make you disciplined. No one is going to teach you how to respect your time or protect your energy if you don't lead that yourself. Every day you're faced with small decisions, and every one of those decisions reflects whether you're taking ownership or giving it away. Responsibility brings clarity. It forces you to drop the stories that keep you small. It cuts through the noise of justification. It demands you look at what's really in your control and then act on it. If your health is suffering, you stop blaming your schedule and start creating new boundaries. If your finances are unstable, you stop blaming your upbringing and start learning what you were never taught. If your relationships are strained, you stop blaming the other person and start owning how you've contributed to the dynamic. That level of self-awareness doesn't make you weak, it makes you powerful, because now you can actually do something meaningful to change the outcome. There's no growth without responsibility. You can't rise while holding on to victimhood. The two cannot exist in the same space. One keeps you stuck, the other moves you forward. Every time you choose to take ownership, you build character, you build resilience, you build trust with yourself. That trust becomes your foundation, because now you know you can face anything, not because it's easy, but because you've decided to take charge. Most people are waiting to feel ready before they take responsibility, but the truth is, responsibility comes first. Clarity, confidence, and results follow. You don't wait until life feels perfect to start leading it. You start where you are, you take inventory, you hold yourself to a new standard, and you move forward, not perfectly, but consistently. Sometimes responsibility looks like choosing discipline over comfort. Sometimes it means having hard conversations with yourself. Sometimes it means making changes you've avoided for years. But every act of ownership strengthens your inner leadership. You stop waiting for a rescue. You stop making excuses. You start deciding every day that your future is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. Responsibility is the seed of personal freedom. When you embrace it, you stop negotiating with your own potential. You stop entertaining the version of you that hides from effort, avoids discomfort, and stays small. You stop living in reaction. You start living on purpose. You create habits that support your vision. You surround yourself with people who reflect your values. You make decisions that match your highest self, not your old fears. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is not your enemy. It's the price of transformation. Growth never happens inside your comfort zone. It happens in those moments when you decide to show up, even when it's hard, when you take the blame off others and put the focus back on yourself, when you stop arguing for your limitations and start practicing your potential. Eventually, responsibility becomes a way of being. You don't need to force it. It becomes natural. You own your wins without arrogance, and your failures without shame. You stop hiding from the truth because you know it sets you free. You build a life that reflects your choices, not your excuses, and that life becomes deeply satisfying, not because it's easy, but because it's real. It's earned. It's built from integrity, one responsible decision at a time. So wherever you are today, begin there. Don't wait for approval. Don't wait for the right conditions. Look around at your life and decide, from this moment forward, I take full responsibility for my habits, for my mindset, for my direction, for how I treat myself and others, for what I allow and what I expect, for how I respond to challenge and how I handle opportunity. And when you make that decision, consistently, without compromise, you become unstoppable. Chapter 9. Speak with honesty, even when it feels uncomfortable. Honest speech is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect. It shows that you are willing to live in alignment with your inner truth, even when silence might feel safer or easier. It's not about being rude, reckless, or harsh. It's about choosing to be real. When you begin to speak with honesty, especially in the moments that make your voice shake, you stop hiding parts of who you are. You stop filtering yourself to keep the peace on the outside while losing it on the inside. You begin to treat your voice as something that matters, not something to be edited for the comfort of others. People often avoid speaking honesty because they fear the discomfort it might create. They worry that the truth will hurt someone, start conflict, or invite rejection. So they bite their tongue, they soften what they feel, they pretend they're fine when they're not. But what feels like safety is actually self-abandonment. Every time you silence your truth, you lose connection with yourself. You begin to live a version of your life that doesn't fully reflect what you think, need, or believe. Over time, this gap between your inner reality and your outer expression erodes your self-trust. Speaking honestly is how you close that gap. It's how you reclaim your power, one conversation at a time. It doesn't mean you speak impulsively or without care. It means you value authenticity over approval. It means you give yourself permission to tell the truth, even if it disrupts an illusion of harmony. Because real peace is not the absence of tension, it's the presence of honesty. And often the most respectful thing you can do is to be truthful. When you start speaking honestly, you make space for deeper relationships. Surface-level connection can only go so far. When you share how you truly feel, what you really believe, and what you genuinely want, you allow people to connect with who you are, not just who you pretend to be. This requires courage. It means being vulnerable. It means facing the possibility that some people won't agree, understand, or stay. But that's not rejection, it's clarity, and clarity always moves you forward. Honesty is also a mirror. It reveals not just what you think about others, but what you've been tolerating within yourself. Speaking the truth out loud forces you to confront your own values. It highlights where you've compromised too much. It shows you the areas where you've stayed silent to avoid change. When you start expressing what's real, you also start hearing your own voice more clearly. That inner voice gets stronger every time you choose to honor it. The habit of honest speech must be built slowly. It begins in the small moments, saying no when you mean no, saying yes only when you mean it, asking for what you need without guilt, admitting when you're hurt instead of pretending you're fine. These aren't grand gestures, but they create a powerful shift in your identity. You stop being the person who avoids discomfort at all costs. You become someone who can stand in the truth without being shaken by it. There will be times when your honesty makes others uncomfortable. There will be moments when you feel exposed, misunderstood, or even criticized for speaking openly. But the discomfort of truth is far more liberating than the comfort of pretending. Lies feel heavy. Silence can suffocate. Truth, though difficult at times, always leads to a lighter life. It clears the air, it breaks the cycle of assumption and resentment. It opens the door to real communication. You also begin to develop emotional resilience. When you tell the truth, you face the reactions it brings, and in doing so, you build your capacity to hold space for disagreement, for tension, for feedback. You stop needing everyone to agree with you. You stop shrinking to fit their expectations. You begin to see that your worth is not dependent on others' comfort with your truth. It stands on its own. Speaking honestly also deepens your integrity. It means your words match your thoughts, your actions reflect your beliefs, and your presence becomes trustworthy. People may not always like what you say, but they will come to respect that you mean it, and that respect often opens doors that dishonesty never could. You'll find that the more honest you are, the less energy you spend pretending. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop avoiding certain people. You stop overthinking every sentence. Your life becomes simpler because it becomes real. You can start this practice quietly. You don't need to make announcements. Begin by telling yourself the truth first. Where are you pretending? What are you afraid to say? Who are you trying to protect by staying silent? And what is the cost of that protection? Then take one step at a time. Say what's real in a kind, grounded, direct way. Speak with compassion, not aggression. Honesty is not about dominance. It's about clarity. It's about saying what you mean with the intention of understanding, not control. When you build a habit of speaking the truth, you attract relationships that can hold it. You stop wasting time in dynamics based on performance. You create room for depth, for honesty in return, for mutual respect. You'll notice that some connections fade when you stop pretending, but that's not a loss. That's space being cleared for what's more aligned. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the permission to be honest without apology. Not because you always have the right answer, but because you're willing to stand behind what you believe at this moment. That honesty may evolve, your opinions may change, your understanding may grow, but the courage to speak up, even while still figuring things out, builds a life based on truth, not illusion. It's not always easy. Sometimes telling the truth will end things. It might close chapters, shift relationships, or challenge people's image of you. But what it creates in return is authenticity, and authenticity is the foundation of fulfillment. You can't feel fully alive while suppressing your voice. You can't feel free while hiding behind politeness. You can't grow if you're too afraid to express what matters to you. So you start now, not when it's convenient, not when everyone else is ready, not when the perfect words come. You start in this moment by choosing to stop hiding behind what sounds good and start living what feels true, even when it's awkward, even when it shakes the room, because the truth might make things uncomfortable, but it's the only thing strong enough to build something real. Chapter 10. Push through hard moments without seeking quick comfort. Most people are trained to reach for comfort the moment they feel pressure. It's automatic. A difficult emotion rises and they distract themselves. A setback appears and they look for a way to escape it. The mind craves relief more than it craves progress, but what's easy in the moment is often what costs the most in the long run. Growth demands that you face the tension directly, without numbing it, running from it, or pretending it's not there. Every time you choose not to escape a hard moment, you build a kind of strength that no external motivation can give you. It's the quiet power of staying present in the discomfort until you rise above it instead of falling beneath it. The truth is, your future is shaped in these small, silent decisions, those seconds when quitting feels justified, when distraction looks harmless, when avoidance appears smarter than effort. But if you want to build something real, real resilience, real achievement, real confidence, you must learn to stay with the difficulty, not because it's pleasant, not because you like pain, but because pushing through it builds something in you that comfort never could. Pain, when faced directly, transforms you, not all at once, but little by sharpening your mind and deepening your patience. We're living in a world that promises instant solutions. You're always just one click, one scroll, or one indulgence away from escaping whatever feels heavy. But every time you give in to that impulse, you train yourself to avoid effort. You train yourself to run from challenge. You teach your brain that pressure is something to flee, instead of something to overcome. That kind of mindset creates dependence on entertainment, on pleasure, on external reassurance. You become less capable, not because you lack talent, but because you never stayed long enough in the struggle to discover your strength. The hard moments are your training ground. The frustration, the boredom, the failure, the doubt, these are not signs you're on the wrong path. These are the ingredients of growth. They test whether you can keep going when motivation is gone. They show you what you actually believe when the outcome isn't guaranteed. They challenge the part of you that wants ease and offer you a choice: surrender to it or outgrow it. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about refusing to be controlled by your craving for comfort. You must be willing to feel the burn of effort. Not every day will feel inspired. Not every step will be smooth. You'll get tired, you'll want to delay, you'll be tempted to give yourself an excuse, and this is where most people stop. But if you want to become someone who creates a powerful life, you cannot build it on the foundation of momentary pleasure. You build it through grit, through patience, through the decision to act even when your emotions say otherwise. This means allowing yourself to sit in the discomfort without fixing it immediately. It means not reaching for the snack when you're bored, not checking your phone the second silence becomes awkward, not quitting the project just because it's frustrating. It means saying to yourself, I'm capable of handling this feeling, and staying in it until you see it shift, not because you avoided it, but because you faced it fully. That's how you train endurance, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When you develop this capacity, life begins to respond differently to you. You stop being tossed around by every inconvenience. You don't crumble at every delay. You stop needing outside conditions to be perfect before you can function. And you start to trust yourself in a way that's unshakable. You know that no matter how difficult the situation becomes, you can hold steady. You can breathe through it. You can stay grounded. You can act with intention instead of reacting from fear. This is how you earn confidence, not by imagining the best-case scenario, but by surviving the hard one. It's not about blind optimism, it's about building the ability to keep going when optimism runs out, because the deeper reward is not just the achievement, but the person you become in the process of reaching it. That version of you, the one who didn't quit, who didn't escape, who didn't collapse, is the foundation of every future success. Comfort is not the enemy, but when it becomes your first response to challenge, it weakens you. You must learn to delay the reward, to stay with the task, to hold the discomfort without turning it into a crisis. You are not fragile. You don't need everything to feel easy. You need a clear reason to keep going and the willingness to face what stands in your way. That's what separates discipline from wishful thinking. One moment at a time, you prove to yourself that you don't need to be rescued from pressure. You don't need to escape your own life. You don't need to numb the experience of being human, because the parts of life that feel difficult are often the parts that are calling you to evolve. And evolution doesn't happen in a comfort zone. It happens in the stretch, in the effort, in the honest work of facing what's hard and doing it anyway. So when the moment comes, the temptation to delay, to hide, to soften the edge, pause. Don't move toward the easy fix. Stay right where you are. Breathe into it. Remind yourself that this feeling will pass, but the discipline you build by staying will remain. You're not fragile. You're simply unused to being present with pain. But that's a skill. It can be learned. And once you learn it, you'll carry it everywhere. There will always be something trying to pull you away from your effort. But every time you resist that pull, every time you choose the long path over the shortcut, every time you say yes to the task instead of the impulse, you strengthen the part of you that leads, not the part that reacts, but the part that decides, and that is where your power lives. Keep showing up in the moments that challenge you. Keep holding the line when you want to fold. Let the discomfort shape you, not break you. Because when you stop seeking comfort at every turn, you start finding strength in places you didn't know existed. And that strength will carry you through things that once seemed impossible, not because they got easier, but because you got stronger.